Recently, we've been focusing too much on economic matters, such as trade efficiency or building costs or even land maintenance, but in truth, if we must win EU4, we will need an army to do it. And I have a novel idea for guaranteeing the best, the greatest, the ultimate soldiers. See, most people's ability at being a soldier lies somewhere on this convenient bell curve, where you go from average for a 4 player, progress to 4-year-old with a stick. Now, near the middle, you finally achieve the rank of average person. Then you start getting higher up. We start getting into the ranks of suburban mum during a school run. And finally, at the end of the bell curve, we have the greatest soldiers of all time, drunk British tourists. Now, most conventional militaries would take this whole spectrum and shove it into a barracks. But I have a new, novel idea. Instead of wasting all this time training, how about we put everyone, I do mean literally everyone, the men, the women, the children, I mean screw it, why not just take the next door neighbour's pets while we're at it too, into the army. Then, as they fight, the incompetent people will conveniently die off, and hence eventually, after sustaining just 99.99% casualties, the only troops who will have left are the super elite top 0.01% Space Marines. This is a flawless plan with no drawbacks, but to put into action we're going to need a lot of national manpower modifiers. So let's go stack that now. Disclaimers, we are looking at a global manpower percentage buffs, so no flat manpower modifiers, no local manpower modifiers, just global national manpower buffs. Yes, those other things I mentioned are good. Yes, you should consider getting those in your game. Also, you get a whole bunch of manpower for being a march, but I'm not going to include it because I said so and it's my video. And right, before we do get into the video itself, as always, I'm man-enabled, achievement-enabled, standard setup. Let's go. So there's going to be an early and later setup to this. We are going to have to go revolutionary, so there's a lot of early games things we need to resolve to set up for that properly. We're also going to need to stay Catholic and have a powerful Pope for a trick that will help us later, but that does mean that's something we need to bear in mind during the setup stages. However, today we'll be starting as the Teutonic Order, which is what I've been hovering over this whole time while making this introduction. So the first thing we need to do is an act of betrayal. See, the Teutons and the Livonian Order have been great friends historically, so we need to conquer them and get 10% national manpower modifier from this mission. Great start. Now the next thing we need to do is go west, and we will need to go and take over Lubeck and some of its surrounding states. This will allow us, when we've stated Lubeck itself, and done some other conditions, to declare the Hanseatic League. This is made easier by reforming to a republic, but before we do become a republic, one quick thing we need to pick up while we're still a theocracy, make sure you grab divine ideas. Now, as a republic, take something like exploration so that you can pick up plutocratic, which is something we'll need later, especially when we'll be switching out of being a republic. Now, declare the Hanseatic League. Feel free to take their ideas if you wish. However, here you're for this mission here, which will allow us to pick up another 25% national manpower modifier until the end of the game. With that done, go south. We need to get into Austria. As a matter of fact, we have to reform Austria itself. Feel free to take Austrian traditions again. And the reason we're in Austria is for the Royal Hungary mission for 15 national manpower modifier. Now this is a temporary buff, which means we're going to need to start doing all of the rest of the setup, and then get our national manpower to the maximum while we still have this buff active. So, what setup are we talking? Well, we need to make sure we stay Catholic. This is very important, because we're going to be using the Crusade mechanic later. As such, the Pope should also survive, and if we become Papal Controller, that will allow us to, in the later stages, and become Papal Controller, so that in the last age of revolutions we can get the correct Papal Bull allow us to go on Crusades. Then make your way east, and you will want to conquer basically Russia and flip Muscovite. This will allow you to have the decision form Russia available. Just hold this decision for now. While you're doing this, probably an idea to get the rest of your idea groups sorted. We will need to yet again become a monarchy, so quickly seize executive power and become a monarchy. You can become an Austrian archduchy for a while if you want, although strictly speaking not necessary. Anyway, now go and take administrative ideas, followed by aristocratic ideas, which contain the first national manpower modifier. Divine ideas do have manpower and true faith promises, but that is something we're ignoring for this run. With 50% national manpower from serfdom guaranteed, next we need to pick up court ideas, followed by quantity, to the surprise of absolutely no one, which of course includes 33% national manpower in the ideas. Finally, we will finish off with espionage ideas. In the ideal world, we would have had an extra 2 idea slots, and we would have taken Horde and Diplomatic for 2 more policies for then Universal Serfdom Act for 15% national manpower, Render onto Caesar for another 10%, the Military Allotment Act for 20%, then we'll need both the Colonial Nobility Act and the Mercenary Registration Act. Now we will be going revolutionary, so we can become a republic early to get ready for that. At tier 10, we'll be able to take the defense principle, giving us a possible military policy +1. This will allow us to take the Colonial Nobility Act for 20% national manpower modifier. Finally, when we do become a revolutionary republic at tier 4 with the religion within the republic reform, we'll be able to take the Cult of Reason, allowing us an extra +1 policy and another +1 free policy slots. There, we will use that slot for the 10% national manpower modifier from the Mercenary Registration Act. Since we've theoretically already become revolutionary, now you will need to become a revolutionary empire, so become an empire title, become the target of the revolution, and take the government reform revolutionary principle. This will conclude with another 50% national manpower mod. Fortunately, this will restrict the national manpower we get from our estates such as nobility, since we won't have estates. An alternative solution here is to become an empire-sized horde, as large tribe host privilege for the tribes gives 20%, as well as the base reform giving 30% at empire size. Now get a recruit master advisor for 10% national manpower, get into level 3 and get them to pop the event for 10% national manpower modifier, coming to 20% overall. Finally, form Russia and take the new traditions and ambitions. This will give you access to the 33% national manpower modifier in the Russian ideas. With all that concluded, make sure you stay Catholic and with the Pope on your side, call a crusade on an unwilling target. With that, declare war and become part of that crusade, which will give you an extra 33% national manpower during the duration of that crusade. Now, the more observant members of my audience would have pointed out that currently we're playing a Russia that is aggressively atheist as part of their Cult of Reason, has declared a crusade against their perceived enemies of the state, and is swarming everyone with huge amounts of troops and ungodly amounts of manpower. I don't think we should be green. I think the color here should be more red, but that's just me. Well, that concludes the video. Thank you very much for watching. If it's something that you enjoyed, a like and a sub would be appreciated. But that is all I have time for you today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!